Honored Daunte Wright before the NBA's team game on Tuesday afternoon. Wright, a 20-year-old black man, a father unarmed, was shot and killed by a police officer Sunday in the Minneapolis suburb of Brooklyn Park, just 10 miles from the Derek Chauvin trial. The Timberwolves and Nets wore special T-shirts during pregame warm-ups before their game and held a moment of silence on the court prior to the playing of the anthem.
At this point, it is you just really don't understand what's going on around here. You know, it's different stories every single day about families' lives getting altered because of police brutality. And I mean, at this point, I really don't know what to say.
In that span of about 11 months, you know, there's been no changes. There's been nothing. So, like, where do we go from here? Where are the changes? And I think that's what we need to see now, because, you know, this has to stop.
Max, you weren't with us yesterday. It's inhumane and it was absolutely preventable. What more can athletes do specifically for social justice and justice for Daunte Wright and all the other Black lives lost?
Well, in this instance, when you're talking about interactions with, police, you can do what you can to reform police unions who've been resistant to reform, specifically in terms of these kind of fatal interactions and crimes. But I think in kind of a broader sense, when we're talking about social justice, I think what athletes can do, and it's a little, in a way, controversial, because the old saying is you never want a sports show is like a bar. You never want to walk in and bring up politics or religion, because it can divide people. And you want to have a good time. And when we're talking sports, you want to bring everyone in, right? But I think it's unavoidable in this case. Without being too specific, I guess it's unavoidable. You also have to be kind of specific here, right? What athletes can do is identify political candidates with whom they agree and support them. And more importantly, those candidates will tend to be, if we're talking about NBA athletes who want social justice, candidates who want people to vote, want more people to vote. Because in our country right now, we have a situation where the way, our founding fathers framed it, in the Senate, for example, the Senate's divided 50-50. One political party who has 50 seats represents 40 million fewer voters than the other political party. So it's already slanted, to favor rural areas over urban areas, our representative government. But on top of that, because of gerrymandering, they're, on a local level, it's even more slanted one way and away from the other. And on top of that, there are now laws, like in Georgia, whose intention is, whatever their advocates are claiming, the intention is, at the very least, to appease voters who were lied to about a stolen election. Wasn't stolen, they were lied to, and now they're trying to appease them. But at worst is actually an attempt to suppress the vote of a certain group of people who vote for the other party. So I would say that, Stephen A., this has been going on. When we were little kids, we knew that what people were calling the browning of America would take place eventually, when there were more babies who were born in this country who weren't white than there were who were white. That's already happened. And eventually, where white people would represent the plurality, meaning they're the largest group, but they're not the majority, meaning over 50%. What would we do when that moment came? And what we've seen is a party that represents, it seems to me, if you look at voting patterns, almost exclusively the white voting bloc, is trying to enact measures to ensure that our system is less democratic and less representative, so that athletes, if they're serious about reform, can identify candidates who want it to be more democratic and more representative, which means getting people to vote, as many as possible. In my view, Stephen A., that's the most effective way athletes can organize.
Before I answer this question, I wanted to read something that a guy's a longtime radio host. His name is Warren Ballantyne. He sent to me this morning. He sent me a text this morning. He said, I thought it was my taser. I thought it was my apartment. I thought I saw him or her with a gun. I thought he was selling Lucy's. I thought she was there alone. I thought she was getting smart with me. Essentially what you're talking about is the Dante Wrights, the Breonna Taylors of the world, the Eric Garners of the world. The list goes on and on. There's a whole bunch of excuses, and now we're hearing that this police officer of 26 years, who evidently couldn't tell the difference between a taser and a gun in the shooting death of Dante Wright, has at least tried to resign. According to what I'm hearing, the mayor is not trying to accept that resignation because apparently by resigning, obviously it puts in a position to collect a pension. I don't know how true that is, but those are the kind of things that are being said. Having said that, to answer the question directly, when we talk about what athletes can do, how about athletes pooling their resources and, creating a legal defense fund? So when cases like this prop up, black individuals can afford to hire the best lawyers to sue some of these cities with civil suits. Because if you're worried about what's going to transpire, if you're worried about the repercussions and the ramifications even more significantly, perhaps it will give you cause to pause. This is the bottom line with these athletes, and this is what I've been saying for a long time. Kevin Durant is en route to becoming a billionaire. LeBron James might already be there. Steph Curry may get there. We heard Russell Westbrook allude to generational wealth a couple of weeks ago, although he was talking about something far more innocuous than this because he was talking about, responding to something that I had said. We saw Kyrie Irving on numerous occasions bring to our attention the kind of things that ail our community and the kind of things he himself, who has put his money where his mouth is on several occasions to generate revenue for causes that are near and dear to his heart, and he should be commended and applauded for that. Think about the resources that athletes collectively have available to them, and think about the impact that could have if you did what Max Kellerman just suggested, identifying political candidates you support and obviously doing what you can to manipulate things from a legislative perspective on Capitol Hill. I'd encourage everybody to watch yesterday's First Take with political commentator extraordinaire Angela Rye and some of the things that she suggested, because she was clearly on point as well. But I also think it's important to point this out, Max Kellerman. I despise when people just march lockstep with parties, because I don't trust any of them. And my whole point is, whether it's a house, a car, or anything else, what you do is you go about the business of saying, show me what you got. Sell me on your point. What is it that you want me to buy that you're selling? Convince me. You understand what I'm saying? Do what you can. Coax me. Show me what you got. I think that athletes can put the black community in a position where we can force individuals with legislative powers to say, convince me. If you sit up there and you're very transparent in your support of one party over another, that party has a license to take you for granted, and the other party has a license to shove you aside because they believe they're not going to get your vote anyway. And as a result, you find yourself underrepresented. So I think that the political game that these people play on Capitol Hill, the same political game that these athletes have surrounded themselves with the right people and they're smart enough to generate revenue for themselves by playing a political game and being corporate. I think that same mentality is something that you could take to Capitol Hill to manipulate proceedings in your favor a little bit more. Just don't be transparent. Make sure they have to sell you on what they're trying to do in order to maintain their position. And I think that can go a long way towards making things happen.
I think it's a good point, not being taken for granted in a two-party system where, I understand that point. I just want to say quickly, Stephen A., Molly, LeBron James has the right idea. Everything that I said just leads to the point where vote. Get people out to vote. And then you'll see, you can make your own determinations. Is there a party out there that's trying to suppress the vote, that's anti-majoritarian, right? Is there a party that wants more democracy? Get out and vote, because black political power has been systematically undermined in this country, even post-slavery. That's what Reconstruction was about, taking away the black vote. LeBron James has the right idea.
We've also undermined ourselves by being a bit too transparent at times. We need to play the game better.
All right, I'll leave you with this. Dante Wright should be alive, and his life mattered. And also another issue that's close to my heart that I want to mention while we're on the subject is Black women are also facing a maternal mortality crisis. And if you're unaware of that, educate yourself and look at the figures and numbers and the alarming rate that they're dying during pregnancy compared to women of other ethnicities. We will leave it on that subject, fellas. When we come back, a sports subject we will discuss, the NFL. That would be